Hey guys, so I thought I'd talk a little bit about. Well, it's hard to pinpoint this into a single concept, but I'll try. I will. I would like to touch on the importance of having the right mentors, which is it's a tricky concept to explain. At least for me, it is. But I'll do my best. So, in essence, what I'm trying to say is that when you're starting out and you start learning programming and you progress through like the courses, you will for the most part be able to pick up almost anything related to programming fairly quickly from almost any teacher. Like there are of course good teachers and bad teachers, and but the bottom line is that when you're first starting out, the amount of learning that you're going to be able to do, since you start with absolutely no pre-knowledge, is going to be massive regardless of who is teaching you. Now, of course, if you find things difficult and so forth, then kind of getting the right mindset might require a better tutor or a mentor or something like that. But in essence, to me, that's what a teacher is. But as you progress through and when you become more advanced as a software developer, you will find that you're going to, for the most part, hit a plateau in your ability to produce software. Now, that's where, in my opinion, a mentor starts to become relevant. And to me, a mentor is a person who is they are not necessarily going to teach you the bare bone basics of programming, but they are more experienced in the thing that they do really well, and they have experiences that you should take to heart, or like they will in essence know things that you don't know. And for some people that's a lot, and for other people that's it's very difficult to find good mentors. And if remember, I mean, even you yourself might become a really great specialist in some area, and you'll become a mentor for somebody else at some point if you're interested. Now, the reason why I want to urge you or encourage you to, for the most part, figure out what type of mentors that you need in your life is because it is that's a self-discovery journey. Now, you are not going to be able to be the best at every single aspect of computer programming, and odds are that you are going to find a style of working or a preference of doing things. And I really encourage you to adhere to those natural tendencies and like let them become your strength. But it's also very important that you talk to people who are coming from different from completely unrelevant things. It's the same type of thing you will hear this from other programmers as well, not just me. They will tell you that it's in order to grow as a software developer, it's great learning new languages, even if they have nothing to do with your job. I mean, go and learn Haskell, even though you're probably never going to use it in production. So it's the same type of concept. Now, I can only speak for myself, but I've had some great fortunes when it comes to finding good mentors so far in my career. When I first started out, I had the benefit of talking to fairly young developers who were, I mean, they were more experienced than me, but they worked for in a certain type of way. Like the focus for them, like the software development lifestyle that they had, was that they did a lot of automotive, like demo type of stuff, like a lot of things that would completely blow your mind visually, a lot of animations and like all that awesome stuff that really, really impresses people at an expo or in a boardroom meeting or something like that, when you're doing a proof of concept type of thing, right? And unfortunately, which it's kind of a contrast, that my entire education was based around learning from basically people who were enterprise developers, Java hardcore enterprise developers. So that the way that these, like in general, my tutors would teach me how to work was test-driven development, the importance of stability, robust code, that type of stuff. And the priorities for such a developer is more in the long-term gain of how to, in essence, it's a long-term thing. It's the type of development you will do if you are at a really big company who has broken through. They have stable revenue stream, and for them the prioritization is more about creating really well maintained and well documented code. So you can imagine that going from that really high quality development style, and then jumping into a team where everything is like almost ad hoc and you just churn things out as quickly as possible, like a sprint for them, or like their boss would feel that things are taking too long if it takes more than a day or two to implement a feature. That type of way of working. Now, depending on what type of developer you are or what type of experience you have, you may say that one is better than the other. And my experience is that there is no such thing. I'm one of those people who will, I will volunteer for any situation that will put me in a position where I have to challenge my own comfort. And what I mean by that is that when I first started at that new company, I was like a fish out of water. I was too green, too inexperienced. It was absolute hell. I had severe stomach aches and panic, almost like, I'm not gonna go as far as to say panic attacks, but it was in that ballpark. I felt enormous amounts of stress, but I endured. I stuck, and I learned a lot from working that way. And then my next job, of course, I go into enterprise, where once again it's a completely different pace. You go for quality, for things that to most of these younger, the people I work with at the previous job, they would have found that in mind-numbingly boring. And we actually, this is a Ticketmaster as well. Most of the people I work with are in my office are they're very good at what they do, but the front end of the team that's working at Ticketmaster, most of them are like that. They are impatient rewriters, and it's almost to the point where it's hard to keep them around because they want to move so quickly and the company can't accommodate it, to put it simply. But that's not what I wanted to say. What I wanted to say is that I had to be taught to get to a point where I was so uncomfortable working in that way that I had to challenge my own mindset. Because remember, I started as a Java enterprise developer, and then I come into this environment where I can't make writing code in the way I used to work in this environment. And the problem isn't the company. The problem is me. I've talked to so many developers who will boycott languages. They will boycott working a certain way because I think, and I honestly believe this, it's fear. It's fear and discomfort. This is classic, it's almost iconic, the reserved Java or .NET developer who learned their platform, is really good at it, will never try anything new, will say no to anything that's different or trying to move in any direction, because it's not because they are incapable of doing it. It's more about that they are afraid to try it, or they feel like that there's no reason to try out these new things and so forth. And what I argue is that is actually weakness. Some people will say that that's being a specialist. I say that that's weakness. It is weakness. You are limiting your own ability to learn and to progress and to be more broad, not because you make a conscious decision, an informed decision. You do it because you're limited. I've seen it so many times where I've actually spoken to some people who they call themselves seniors, and I can tell you right away that they are not senior developers, by my account anyway, where I will ask them open questions about certain technologies that are fairly relevant to their, like, this is in front end. Like I've asked so-called senior front end developers, what are your favorite features with Node.js, and they can't answer. And then I ask, okay, so what pros and cons do you see with using Node.js over a type length? And they, once again, they can't answer, and they will simply say, well, I prefer doing it this way because yada yada yada. And like, if you are making a decision based on, without knowing half, like if you have a pick between two things or several things, and you make a decision based on only on what you have right now, without actually doing your research and checking out what the other stuff is going to bring to the table, then you are making a poorly informed decision. And this is where mentors come in. This is why it's so important for you, for your personal growth and development, to get out of your comfort zone. Put your, like, if you think that you know programming, you don't know shit about programming. Trust me, you don't know shit. The people who are basically building who are even in the management position, who are contributing to, like, the biggest open source projects, the biggest computer science projects, the big Google's own developers. Do you think that they go around thinking that they know everything? Of course they don't. That's why it's so important to have these communities and, like, share knowledge. Like, you'll never know everything. That's why you should get comfortable not knowing everything. And honestly, if you feel discomfort in opening yourself up to other people and coming over to a colleague and say, hey, I'm really shitty at this thing here. Could you help me? Like, I know you're so good at this. Could you maybe just, do a little bit of coaching, and then and make them, do them a favor. Most likely they're going to feel really flattered that you think that they're great at something that you're not great at, and you'll do a lot of learning that way. So go out of your way to find these great mentors. And the rule of thumb for finding a good mentor, even if they're not good at teaching, I mean, I have a colleague that I speak to all the time. Like, all the time. He is the most senior person I've ever worked with. I love that guy. He is reserved. I mean, we don't get along, and there's so many things we don't agree on. But I listen to him all the time because I know that he knows his stuff. That's the best rule of thumb. If you want to find good mentors, find people who are experienced. Learn how to figure out how to listen in a way so that you can tell if somebody's full of hot air, or like they're just talking, or if they actually know their stuff. I'll give you an example. I was searching for such a long time for somebody who could teach me Swift development for iOS. And I did this on YouTube as well. And I have been programming for long enough to be able to tell when somebody is just programming as a hobby. They're not they're not full-time professional developers. My absolute favorite mentor, teacher is a strong word, but mentor or whatever, his name is Brian Wong. He has a YouTube channel. I highly recommend it. And I have no affiliation with him whatsoever. I just really like his stuff. And the reason why I like what he does is because, at least in the iOS stuff, is because I can hear in the way that he reasons about, like, he motivates the decisions he makes when he's building something. I can hear that he has thought this through. Now, this comes from my own experience, but usually you develop a sensation for these things. You develop a sixth sense for telling when a person who's going to teach you something really knows their stuff. Like, are they talking? Do they actually know their stuff? And this is you can find this everywhere. I'll give you a short story. There was a guy who was applying. He has maybe 20 years experience or something like that doing software development. And he applied for this. He was in the pipeline for the same job that I have today, and he didn't get it because he was all talk. He has spent so much time in a management position or disconnected from writing actual code and keeping up to date with everything that's modern, that I actually won, even though I'm a much more junior profile, because, like, I I was engaged. I was engaging in daily coding in a way that he wasn't. So that's probably the best tip I can give you. So two things to take away from this is to first and foremost be humble. Trust me, you will never know everything about coding. Just completely throw any idea of that out the window and become as humble as you can. Be self-confident, like believe in your own ability and push yourself to do better, but don't get arrogant at all. Ask people for help, because people in software really want, like, they want to share. Most of them want to share and they want to teach you. So that's number one. Start by having that attitude. Learn, 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 learn. And then the second thing is learn how to listen in a way so that it saves you time, so that you know who knows something and who is really only, they don't have a good grasp of things. Because some people will actually try to sell themselves off as really experienced when they're really not that experienced. And that's dangerous. I actually do yourself, like, I watch a lot of tutorials, for example, and at this point I've become fairly good at knowing when a tutorial is going to give me something or it's not going to give me something. So I can pretty much just click at a few key thresholds in the video and just listen for a few seconds and know, all right, this person is much has something that I can learn, and this person, or this is going to be a waste of my time. So try to develop that skill set. It's as valuable as having really good Googling skills to find solutions to your problems.